Addie soldiers. One of my friends told me that apparently I start all my videos with a cup of something saying like, oh, I'm so caffeinated, or like, ha ha ha, this is my 4th cup of coffee today. Well, joke's on you, Malcolm. This isn't a coffee at all. It's a chai tea latte. Which I just realized may or may not have equal to or more caffeine than a regular cup of coffee. Whatever, I don't have any word to be tonight. Okay, so funny story. If you don't know, I am on the TikTok, link is below, and I recently did a video that got a lot of views that people are coming for me about, which I find very interesting. Like, this is the drama in my life, and like, that's fine. Where basically I pointed out some books that are very popular on TikTok that I personally don't think deserve the hype, or that have like lots of red flags in them, or like maybe are not objectively the best books out there. Just saying. You can still like something and be critical of it at the same time. And I'm not quite talking about it in the same context as that video, but I kind of wanted to go over some like overhyped books in today's vlogger's choice style video essay. And I think I've said this exact thing in other videos too, but I don't know which ones, along the lines of, you always see the same books over and over and over again on YouTube or on TikTok or on Instagram because they are ones that get a lot of hype, or they're from like very popular authors, and sometimes they deserve the hype and sometimes they really don't, or they're really overhyped for me. So I don't necessarily want to be negative, but like I want to be a little sassy today, you know, in my book selection. If you like these books more or less than I do, that doesn't make you a bad person. I don't think it makes me a bad person, just objectively. I'm just saying, not be so sucked into the hype, or like make your own opinion on something regardless of how much everyone else likes it. Come one, come all, let us critique books that you would have to be very foolish or very brave to publicly critique on the internet. I haven't decided which one that I am yet, but you know, you'd be surprised how often those two things coincide. So without further ado, let's talk about some books that are way overhyped. Let's get controversial. Let's start off by addressing the elephant in the thumbnail. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. Hey, before any of you angry commenters, look, do you see? I like her work, okay? Hey, guess what? It's possible for you to like an author and then not like a book by the same author. I'll also say that I don't hate this book. I thought this was a very beautiful book. I really love the concept, and the writing is very beautiful. A couple months before this came out, I went to a virtual panel at TorCon and listened to her talk about this book and how it's been 10 years in the making, and this is one of the first books that she ever had an idea for, and how proud she is to see it on shelves, and I'm like, oh my god, my feelings. In case you don't know, this is about Addie, who lives in 1714 France, who sells her soul to a dark god to avoid an arranged marriage. But the catch is that she is now immortal, and everybody that she ever meets will forget her face until one day someone says, I remember you. Objectively, very beautiful. Love a good historical fantasy, love me some deals with demons, but overall, I was just very underwhelmed. Addie herself, despite having some very interesting takes on what immortality will do to someone's morality, I felt like she herself was a bit of a manic pixie dream girl and like she could do no wrong. It was so overhyped that there literally was no way this was ever going to meet my expectations. Because in other books that are overhyped, you're like, oh hey, it's because there's like a sexy fairy, or like, ooh, there's some good action sequences, where as in this, it was like, God himself will come down and smite you if you do not read this. Spend all your rent money buying multiple copies of this book. You will be persecuted if this isn't on your shelf by the end of 2020. So overall, it was good, but it was also just like, fine, so those are my thoughts. Another huge named book that I'm just, again, underwhelmed by was Night House by Leigh Bardugo. I know. I have talked about this all over the internet, especially on TikTok for some odd reason. This is about magical cults at Yale, which, like, yes, fuck me up with some of that shit. Also, she does the Grisha series and the Six of Crows duology, which I love, near and dear to my heart. I was expecting this to be bombastic and dark and magical, and it was. For only like half the time. But I just felt like the pacing was kind of off, and I like the parts of this book that I loved, but the parts that I didn't love, I was like, I'm okay, bored, moving on. I didn't quite connect with her characters in this one as much as I have in her other ones, and I still don't know why. I'm still trying to put that pinpoint on it, but just like overall, I'm just okay. I'm more excited about the snake on the cover than I am about the main character, so that says something. But like, am I gonna buy the sequel? Yes. This next one is kind of weird, but I thought about this the other day and realized that I don't understand why so many people like it, because I mean, I kept it on my shelf for this long, so I must have obviously liked it. But Carry On by Rainbow Rowell has no business being as popular as it is. Oh, she wrote another book, which is Fangirl, which I happen to love, which is about a girl who goes to college, and this girl happens to write fan fiction about a series that's very similar to Harry Potter called Simon Snow, and this book, Carry On, is the fan fiction that she wrote about this fictional series, and this is supposed to be her take on the final book in the series. It's a cool concept in theory, and I actually quite liked how in Fangirl every couple chapters there was like one page of her writing, which I loved, but then to turn it into a whole book without context is really weird. I remember when this came out, this had mixed reviews because a lot of people were just picking it up because it looked cool and were like, what is this book? And I'm like, hey, no, this is, I'm gonna be that person. You gotta read the other ones first. Okay, yes, it's gay. Is there anything else to it? Like, it's not meant to be read by itself. And even as someone who read Fangirl and then read this, I was so confused, and it took me a little while to actually finish the book. And this book reads like fan fiction, which is not bad, but at the same time, like, it doesn't set up the world properly because it also expects the reader to know about this series, which I happen to like sometimes, but it just felt like in this one it was just rambling and it didn't explain things properly enough and had a bunch of scenes that just felt like filler to me. Like, this reads like a very enthusiastic but amateur writer, which I suppose Kath is, but Rainbow Rowell certainly isn't. Also, what is up with the tail thing? Simon Snow did it before Carden made it cool. Okay, this next one might be like a little controversial. I'm gonna take a sip of tea first. The next book that I don't think deserved the hype. Actually, no, that's not true. I think it deserved the hype, but I don't think it's as good as the hype that it got. Does that make any? I don't know. I don't really think that Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi deserved all its hype. Now, before we start anything, I just want to say I do understand why this book is important. This is the first widely distributed, widely marketed, widely read, and hyped book by a Black female author based in West African culture and mythology that hit the New York Times bestseller list. This means a lot to a lot of people. This means a lot to the publishing industry, and it means a lot to diversity within children's books. And it makes me really sad, because it's like, hey, remember when this came out? Yeah, I do. Do you remember anything else about it? I sure don't. I know the second book came out last year and like, I didn't read it. I don't know anybody who has read it. There's supposed to be like a movie deal or something with this too. Haven't heard about that. What happened to this book? Like, I'm so disappointed. I got an advance copy of this book. I was like losing my mind, and I read it and I was like, that was fine. Like, the romance was okay. The magic system was decent. But I felt like the plot and the character development was just inconsistent and patchy. Just from a storytelling standpoint and my, professional book blogger opinion, I just didn't think that it was as good as everyone was hyping it up to be, but I understand that this still means a lot to a lot of people. And if she ever puts anything else out, like, I'll probably read it, but like, this one was just like, it's fine, it was alright, it was okay. Okay, it wouldn't be me, it wouldn't be one of my videos if I didn't say that I don't think that Sarah J Maas deserves the hype she gets. Once again, TikTok loves Sarah J Maas, which I have found out because the stans came for me when I said that Crescent City was not a well-developed book. And it's just not, like, just objectively, it's not. Like, Crescent City is just a red flag of a book. Like, I could throw this off a bridge and someone would think that it was a distress flare. Boring, there's so much slut-shaming and like a weird world that could have been interesting, but instead you just focus on the main characters having sex, and then you didn't even really do that. It's just, it's not good. I just didn't like it. And A Court of Thorns and Roses was like, fine. Like, the first book wasn't even that good. The second book is where it's at. Like, that's when all the character development and like the cool-ass world building happens. This first one was just like, alright. Like, it was good enough for me to buy the sequel. But like, I've read Court of Thorns and Roses like 6 times. Like, I don't dislike it per se. I also don't dislike Throne of Glass. I think it's a really cool world, and I love how she built it up in each book. But it's also like, oh, I noticed you only have 2 people of color in the entire series, and they both died off very quickly and to only further the main character's plotline. Interesting. But I've seen an argument online, actually from another one of my book blogger friends, who said that, regardless of what issues this series has, all of these mean a lot to different people because all of the women in them are pretty badass. Being able to see this badass female character like kicking ass and taking names, or like dealing with mental health issues, or dealing with like extraneous circumstances really helped them. And so I'm glad that this book means a lot to you, but I also think we should be a little bit more critical of what she is writing in her books. Just saying. I like to joke that these two books are the first time that teenagers are reading smut and that's why they like it. It's not even that good. You can find much better ones somewhere else. Okay, second to last is a bit of a wild card one, but I did some heavy thinking about this and I did come to the conclusion that this was way overhyped for me, but I still have an odd emotional attachment to it, and that is Aurora Rising by J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. Okay, so I love these authors. I loved Illuminae, and you know I love a good ragtag found family crew in space kind of adventure novel. And I ran the book event when this book launched in Vancouver. It was at my bookstore and I emceed it. I set it up. I got to meet J. Kristoff. I got my book signed. Oh yeah, here's a photo. Oh, for context, I'm 5'8". Like, I'm not short. He's just really tall. Kaufman and Kristoff committed the atrocity, which was giving us a large cast and not spending equal amounts of time with each person. Aurora herself, as the main character, was kind of boring, and I didn't really care about her. I was like, yeah, go back to the golden boy. I did like the relationship dynamics, and you know I love me a sassy AI and some good alien life form chatter. This isn't the best sci-fi that I've ever read, especially once put up against Illuminae. I think this is just new and exciting, but it was good enough for me to buy the sequel. And holy shit, the sequel's so good. If anything, you need to read this so that you can read the sequel, because that is maybe one of the most spectacular books that I've read in a really long time. Yeah, okay, now who's overhyping it? I get it, but like this was like a Mad Dece, but the other one is like fantastic. So, just saying. And lastly, I would like to talk about one that is very popular in the TikTok algorithm. Because that's where I spend all my time these days, and that is Serpent and Dove by Shelby Maheron. Really help him say your last name right, because I'm about to slander this book in front of many people. Okay, so objectively this book was alright. Yet again, an instance in which I think this book is very big because it's the first time teenagers are reading sex and they're like, oh my god! And I will say, the sex in it was like pretty good, actually, like pretty good representation, especially the fact that like the girl is the one taking charge and the man is like the shyer one. I did like that dynamic, but this is the thing I had about the dynamic and why I didn't like it. Pacing of Lou and Reed's relationship and the pacing and world building of the novel that they're in don't match. This is like the epiphany that I had last night at like 2 AM, because that's what, you know, I stay up thinking about. Like, Lou's pretty sassy and a little bit bawdy, and I don't mind that, but it's also like, Lou, read the room. This is not the time to be the sass bucket. I just felt like her character didn't match the world that she was in. And then just the other things that bothered me in this were the things that she was telling us did not match the things that were happening in the book. Like, at the very beginning, Lou breaks her finger to be able to break a lock, and I was like, oh, that's dark and I love it. Where is this going? And then it just like doesn't show up again in the rest of the book. You're like, oh, okay, so you set me up for like gore and mischief, and I just don't get that for the rest of the novel. Disappointed. Then also, like, that's the best you could do with the witch plot line. That's it. Like, we're expecting them to be these like all-powerful, crazy murder weapons on brooms, and we just get that. You had a ball scene. You had a ball scene with an evil witch queen, and that's it. That's all you made it. I'm so disappointed with this book. I think this book had major potential to be really, really good, but there were just a couple little things that didn't quite make it as I had hoped. So, if you like this book, I'm very happy for you. And that wraps that up. There are a bunch of books that I did not think deserved the hype that they got. And I understand why a lot of them did, but I still don't think they deserved it. Once again, these are my opinions, and it is totally okay if you have other opinions than I do. I know some people that hate my favorite books, and you know what? That's fine. I get it. Different opinions make the world go round. Especially now, because there's been a large rise in young adult books. Like, the publishing market is just so saturated that it seems like there's something getting hyped every week, or there's like a batch of books getting hyped every week, and it's impossible for all of them to be that good. Like, it just isn't. You know, I was feeling a little down today, but honestly, a good rant in a pirate sleeve made me feel a lot better. Maybe it also has something to do with caffeine from this chai tea latte. Damn it, Malcolm, you were right. Leave down below your own thoughts and opinions on these. Did I slander your favorite book? That's how the world works, baby. Sorry about that. Leave me down below some books that you thought were overhyped. Just realized I have class later, and this shirt would be perfect to wear to my Shakespeare lecture. sure my teacher would appreciate that. You know where to click to like the video, you know where to click to subscribe. I hope you guys are all having a nice day wherever you are, and I will see you all next week. Bye!